Everyone fears me. So why don't you, human? Asked the alien woman. The day started just like any other, ordinary and calm. It had been weeks since I had ventured out this far from my settlement. I had always been a curious person, though drawn to the unknown. Most people prefer to stay within safety of their communities, but for some reason I felt something pulling me beyond the familiar. The vast open world beyond seemed to call to me like there was something I needed to discover. But I never expected to find her. I was wandering along a narrow trail when I first noticed something strange in the distance. At first, I thought it was just a mirage. The sun was harsh that day, and the heat made everything shimmer in the air. But as I got closer, it became clearer. There was a figure standing on a rock, tall and imposing, with an otherworldly presence. I had never seen anyone like her before. She stood perfectly still, her eyes locked on me the moment I stepped into her line of sight. It was as if she had been waiting for me. The world around me fell silent, the wind seemed to stop, and even the sound of my footsteps faded into the background. I took a hesitant step forward, my heart racing. I had never been one to back down from the unknown, but something about her made me cautious. It was like she held some kind of power in her gaze. I finally gathered the courage to speak, my voice low and unsure. Who are you? I asked, not sure what to expect. The woman tilted her head slightly, as though amused by the question. Then, without missing a beat, she spoke. Everyone fears me, so why don't you, human? The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I could feel the weight of them, and yet I wasn't afraid. I didn't know why. Maybe it was the way she spoke, like she was testing me, or maybe I was simply too intrigued by her presence to feel fear. All I knew was that I wasn't scared. I stared back at her, trying to make sense of what was happening. Why would I be afraid? I asked, the words seeping out before I could think. You haven't given me a reason to be. Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment I thought I had said the wrong thing. But then she seemed to relax just slightly, as if she had been expecting my response. The tension between us remained, but it wasn't the fearful kind. It was more like the anticipation before something big happens, something important. Interesting, she said softly, almost to herself. Most humans are terrified of me. But you, she paused, looking me over. You are different. You do not fear me. I felt a small, confused frown tug at my face. I don't think fear is the answer to everything, I said, more to myself than to her. Why should it be? For a moment there was only silence between us. She seemed to be thinking, perhaps considering my words carefully. I couldn't help but wonder who or what she was. There was something about her that felt ancient, like she had seen far more of the world than I ever would. Yet there was a sadness behind her eyes, a loneliness I couldn't quite place. It was like she was trapped in a world of her own making, surrounded by power but lacking real connection. You speak of fear as if it is optional, she finally said. For my kind, it is not. Fear is what keeps us in control. It is what keeps the universe in line. Ah, I shook my head slowly. But fear also keeps people apart, I said, my voice gaining strength. It doesn't bring anyone closer. It makes us keep our distance, build walls. Wait, and I could see her mind working through the idea. It was almost as if she was hearing something she had never considered before, but wasn't sure whether to accept it. You speak of things I do not understand, she said after a long pause. Where I come from, we take what we want, and fear is the tool we use to make sure we get it. There is no room for doubt, no room for weakness. I shook my head, trying to make her see my point. But you are alone, aren't you? I asked softly. Is that really what you want? To always be alone, to always have everyone fear you? The question seemed to catch her off guard. She faltered for a moment, and I could see the tiniest crack in her composure. It was almost imperceptible, but it was there, like she had never really thought about it before. She took a step back, as though she were rethinking everything she had known. Everyone fears me, she said again, but this time there was something softer in her voice. It wasn't the same forceful statement as before. So why don't you human? I didn't know how to answer her. I just stood there staring at her with a mixture of confusion and sympathy. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. She had never known a life without fear, without the wall that kept others at a distance. How could she understand what it was like to be free from that? To live without the constant weight of control hanging over your head? I took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin. I don't fear you because I know that you are more than just fear, I said slowly, my words chosen carefully. I don't know what you've been through, but I do know that fear isn't the only thing that defines us. It doesn't have to be the thing that keeps us alive. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something in her eyes, something like curiosity or perhaps even hope. She didn't say anything, but for the briefest moment, I thought she was beginning to understand. And then, as quickly as it had started, the silence between us grew. The world around us seemed to come back to life, wind rustling through the trees, the sounds of distant birds calling, the life of the land returning to its normal rhythm. It felt like everything was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. The days that followed were strange. It was as if everything had shifted between the alien woman and me, though I wasn't sure exactly what had changed. There was no clear moment when things became different, but there were. She had been keeping her distance at first, watching me like I was a curiosity she couldn't quite understand, but now I felt like she was waiting. Maybe waiting for something I couldn't provide, or maybe waiting for something she didn't even understand herself. She had asked me why I wasn't afraid of her, but it felt like the real question was deeper than that. Why didn't I fear what she represented? Why didn't I fear the power that she carried so effortlessly? I couldn't give her an answer that would satisfy her because I didn't even understand it myself. I only knew that fear wasn't something I allowed to rule me. I didn't fear her because I could see past the power and see her as a person just like me, or at least close enough to be understood. We would talk often, though not always about what was happening around us. It was more like we were two strangers sitting quietly trying to make sense of everything that had led us to this strange encounter. She would ask questions, questions that seemed basic, but they always felt heavier, as if her people had never thought to ask them before. What is it like to feel free? She asked one day, as we sat near a fire. The flames crackled, sending sparks into the air. I was taken aback by the question, as it was one I'd never thought about much. To me, freedom had always been part of life, something that I took for granted, but to her it seemed like an impossible concept. To feel free, I repeated, unsure how to answer. It's like being able to make your own choices, to do what you want without anyone forcing you into something. She nodded slowly, taking in the words like they were foreign to her. She seemed to be lost in thought for a long time, staring into the fire as if it held answers to questions she didn't even know how to ask. I had no idea what she was going through in her mind. She was an alien, and though we were starting to talk, there were still so many differences between us, things that I could never truly understand. You say that no one forces you to do anything, she said, breaking the silence. But how do you know? How can you be sure that everything you do is truly your own choice? Don't you think that maybe, just like me, you've been shaped by your world? That the choices you think you are making are just a result of everything you've been taught? The question struck me like a cold wind. She was right in a way. My life, my decisions, were they really my own? Or had I just been playing a role that my society had set out for me, never questioning the mold I was placed in? I thought about my family, the people I'd grown up with, the rules that governed everything. Had I ever truly questioned any of it? For a moment, I couldn't answer her. I just stared at the fire, my mind racing. I wasn't sure if I was questioning my own life or if she was challenging me to see things from a different perspective. Her life had been one of fear and control, but my life had been shaped by expectations and the weight of societal norms. In a way, we were both products of our environments. Her fear was a tool for power. My conformity was a tool for peace. I suppose we all just do what we think is right, I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. But sometimes I think we should question it more. And what would happen if you did? I don't know, I replied, my voice thoughtful. Maybe we'd find out that we've been living for other people, not ourselves. Maybe we'd learn to choose for ourselves. Her expression changed as if something had clicked. She seemed to be thinking about that, considering the possibility. For the first time, it seemed like she was beginning to understand. But there was still a long way to go. The alien woman had spent her life in a world where power and fear dictated everything. It wasn't easy for her to just let go of that. It was like trying to erase a part of yourself that had been with you for so long. I wonder, she murmured after a long pause, if it's too late for me to change. I didn't know how to answer her. What could I say? That change was always possible, that even the most hardened hearts could learn to care. I wasn't sure she would believe it. Maybe it's never too late, I said finally, shrugging. Maybe the fact that you are asking means you are already changing. Her eyes met mine then, and for the first time I saw something resembling hope in them. It was faint, but it was there. I didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time I felt like she was looking at the world through new eyes, eyes that were beginning to question everything. The next few days passed in a blur of conversation and shared silence. We talked about the things that scared us, the things that hurt us, and the things that made us feel alive. It wasn't always easy, and sometimes we fell silent for hours, each lost in our own thoughts. But we kept talking, kept trying to understand one another. It felt like we were both learning, and it wasn't just about the alien woman learning to trust me, it was about me learning to trust her as well. There were moments when she would speak of her people, how they had conquered worlds, taken what they wanted, and instilled fear wherever they went. She spoke with such bitterness, though, that I couldn't help but wonder if she was just as tired of it all as I was. Maybe she was just looking for a way out, a way to be something other than a weapon. What if I could change the way my people see the world? She asked one day. What if I could make them understand that fear isn't the answer, that there's another way? I smiled at her, feeling a sense of hope I hadn't known I could have. Then you would be the one to show them, I said simply. You would be the one to change everything. And in that moment, I realized something. The alien woman was no longer the person I had met days ago, the cold, detached figure who had commanded fear. She was someone different now, someone who was capable of change, of growth. She had learned that fear didn't have to define her, and that maybe, just maybe, she could be more than just a conqueror. She could be someone who chose peace, someone who chose to understand rather than control. We sat together side by side watching the fire burn low. The world around us was still. For the first time, there was no tension between us, no walls of fear. There was just the quiet understanding that maybe we were both ready for something new. The following days felt like a quiet storm. Something had shifted, not just between the alien woman and me, but within her. I could see it in the way she moved, the way she spoke, the way she looked at me. There was a softness now, something that hadn't been there before. She was changing in small but undeniable ways. The power and fear that had once been her identity no longer seemed to hold the same weight. It wasn't an easy change. There were moments when she would slip back into old habits, moments when she would talk about the way things were supposed to be, when the old patterns of dominance and control tried to creep back into her thoughts. But with each passing day, it became clearer to me that she was fighting to break free of that. She wanted to be different and she was willing to try. Warm. One morning, she approached me as I sat by the edge of the camp, watching the sunrise. It was a quiet moment, peaceful in a way that felt rare. And when I turned to look at her, I saw the look in her eyes, the same look that had been there when she first asked me why I wasn't afraid. This time it was filled with something different. Hope. I have been thinking, she said, her voice steady but uncertain, about what you said before, about choosing for myself, about what it really means to be free. I nodded, encouraging her to continue. I think I understand now. Fear isn't the answer. It's never been the answer. I've spent so long believing it was the only way, but now I know there's more. Her words were simple, but they carried so much weight. She had just taken the first real step toward becoming the person she wanted to be, a person who could choose, who could create her own path. I had no idea where it would lead, but for the first time, I believed she would find a way to make it work. What will you do? I asked, curious about what this new version of her would do now. I don't know, she admitted, a small, genuine smile tugging at her lips. But I'll figure it out. I have to. I can't go back. It was the first time she had spoken about the future without fear in her voice. There was no hesitation, no doubt. She was ready to face whatever came next, not as a conqueror, but as someone who had learned to live without the constant shadow of fear hanging over her. We stood together, looking out at the horizon, where the sun was now fully risen, casting its warm light across the land. It was a new beginning for both of us. And though the road ahead was uncertain, I knew one thing for sure: we were no longer bound by fear. We were free to choose our own path. In the days that followed, the air between us seemed lighter, more open, as if we had both been holding our breath for far too long and could now finally exhale. The alien woman, whose name I still didn't know, had been slowly changing, shedding the layers of fear and control that had bound her for so long. It wasn't easy. There were moments when the old habits came rushing back, when she would catch herself slipping into the mindset of power and dominance. But each time she stopped herself, reconsidering what she had learned. And it wasn't just for me. I could see it in her eyes, the desire to be something more, something different than what she had been taught to be. I watched her closely, almost as if I were waiting for her to slip up. But each day I saw fewer signs of that old self, that cold, imposing figure who had once demanded fear from everyone around her. Instead, she was becoming something else, a person like me with doubts, hopes, and a deep need for connection. We talked a lot during this time, sharing thoughts and ideas, but we also spent time just sitting together in silence, both of us contemplating what it meant to be free, to be ourselves, without the constant weight of fear hanging over us. Warm. One afternoon, while we were sitting near a river, I noticed her watching the water, her eyes tracing the path of the current as it flowed past us. The calmness of the river seemed to match the calmness I saw in her. It was as if, with every passing day, she was learning to let go of the rush of power that had once been everything to her. I used to think that control was everything, she said softly, her voice distant, that if I could control everything around me, I would never feel vulnerable. But now I see that the more I tried to control, the more I lost myself. The more I forced fear on others, the more I lost the ability to truly connect. I didn't say anything right away, simply letting her words settle in the space between us. It was strange hearing her speak like this. It was almost as if she had been on a journey without even realizing it, and now she was standing at the edge of something new, something she had never dared to imagine before. It's hard, she continued, still staring at the water, letting go of what you've known for so long. It's like being born again but without knowing who you are. I know that, understanding her more than I thought I would. It is hard, I agreed quietly. But I think you are starting to figure it out. It's okay not to have all the answers right away. Sometimes the first step is just realizing that you want to change, and I think you've already done that. She turned to look at me, then her eyes softer than they had ever been before. I never expected to meet someone like you, she said. You've shown me that there's another way to live, a way without fear. And for the first time, I think I want that. I want to be more than just a weapon. Her words hit me harder than I expected. I had always known that she had a fierce side, a side that had been shaped by years of power and dominance. But now I was seeing something different. I was seeing a person who had been locked away for so long, someone who had been forced into a life that wasn't truly her own, and she was starting to break free from it. It was humbling to be a part of that. Whatever happens, I said gently, you don't have to do it alone. You already taken the hardest step, and I'm here for you, just like I've always been. Between us. But it was a comfortable silence. But it was a comfortable silence, the kind that speaks more than words ever could. We didn't need to say much more. We both knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but we also knew that we were no longer walking it alone. As the days passed, the alien woman began to take more and more steps toward her new life. She started to seek out new ways to understand the world, to connect with others, and to build something that didn't rely on fear. It wasn't always easy, but she was determined. And each time she stumbled, she got back up and kept going. She no longer viewed the world as something to be controlled, but as something to be understood and shared. The first time I saw her smile genuinely was a moment I'll never forget. It was small, just a curve of her lips, but it spoke volumes. She wasn't smiling because she was in control or because she had won something. She was smiling because she had found something that she had long since lost, her humanity. One day, as we were walking through a dense forest, she stopped and looked at me with a new kind of confidence. I think I'm ready, she said, her voice firm, ready to face my people, ready to show them that fear isn't the only way. I smiled, feeling a sense of pride in her that I hadn't expected. I'm proud of you, I said. You've come a long way. But remember, no matter what happens, this is your choice. No one can take that from you. She nodded, and for the first time, I saw a true sense of purpose in her. It wasn't the kind of purpose that came from fear, but from something much deeper, something born from understanding, from growth, from the desire to be more than what she had been. As we continued on our journey, I knew that the alien woman had made her choice. She had chosen to be free, to be herself, without the shackles of fear holding her back. And though the future was uncertain, I had no doubt that she would face it with strength, courage, and an open heart. She had found the freedom to choose her own path, and nothing could take that away. The last time we parted ways, we didn't say much. There was no need for words. We both knew that we had come to the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. She had come so far from the person she had once been, and I couldn't help but feel grateful to have been a part of her journey. As she walked away, I watched her for a moment, knowing that she was no longer the alien woman who demanded fear. She was something more now, something real, something human. And as she disappeared into the distance, I couldn't help but smile, knowing that she would go on to change the world, not with fear but with understanding. And that I realized was the most powerful thing anyone could do.